hugely successful. He's been leading 2 teams to record-breaking sales under his development, which is awesome. And then we have Michael.
What's his quirky story?
I don't have one. I'm sorry. Well, we just don't have some quirky stories. Some people did not give me quirky. Yeah, no, I want you to sit. Michael Espada, he's with Vulcan Arts and Entertainment. He's the director of sales. His career spans all different sports venues. So he's NHL, NBA. He spanned a lot of different sports properties. And currently, he is with Vulcan Arts and Entertainment, and he works with museums, attractions, and events. So for 13 years, he's had pro and college experience, and now on the other side of it, looking at attractions and events and how to attract people with that. Joe Rickson has had 1 year in, he had 1 year in minor league baseball, and that led him to decide he was working with the least fun team in all of minor league baseball, and he needed to make a change. So he moved on, and he spent 6 years at Liberty University before he came to Seton Hall. And he has a really strong background in being able to have the opportunity to be part of 3 major football stadium renovations and a new baseball stadium opening. And if you've never ever been part of either renovations for something new opening or closing, it's a phenomenal experience. Something that not everybody gets to have.
Stressful.
It's very stressful, yeah. And right now at Seton Hall, he's been introducing a ton of new ticketing programs, which have all been successful. And here we have Dan Ferguson. Dan began his career with the Seattle Storm, where I grew to know him. He worked very hard. He was recognized nationally by the league for being in the top 10 in group sales for 2 years. And his career has taken him across the country to college and minor league teams in various roles, directors, assistant GMs, and the latest being the GM of the Walla Walla Suites. And he's looking now to develop the next sales team and work with them. All these guys have experience with how to figure out how to bring in large groups. And that's why those of you that are here right now. How can we supersize the groups we have? I'm Kathy Burrows. I spent about 8 years in Cleveland Indians and left to start my own company. So for about the past 16 years, I've been all over the country working with teams and helping them increase their sales. I'm a huge fan of supersizing groups. I'm a huge believer if 100 is good, 1,000 is better. If 500 is good, 5,000 is much better. So I figure out how we're going to do that. And I'm the one person that does training that still sells. So I still sell for sports teams because I want to experience what you're experiencing. And so it's easier to experience it than to come out here and say, do this, do that. I haven't done it in 10 years. So I do it. I hear the same complaints, believe me. So I'm going to ask some questions. Please, it's a small group, interact. If you have questions or do you want to elaborate on something, just talk to us, tell us. So college settings, major league settings, minor league settings, they're all a little bit different. How do you go about finding contacts in a college setting for supersizing groups? How do you start out finding that?
Start things off. I think the biggest thing is utilizing, just looking where you utilize the assets you have. But I think you can start off by going to your alumni centers and asking them. It's kind of like, hey, tell them what you're looking at doing. I'm thinking about working with the Boys and Girls Clubs, or looking at working with, YMCA and building this up, or whatever it is that you're looking to do. Do we have any current alumni that are involved with that, or have involved with that in the past? Or even go to your director or even the athletic director and kind of say, this is what I'm looking to do. Do we have anybody that's connected in any of those departments? More than likely, you're going to find them kind of say, well, yeah, I know, Joe or Sally or whomever this is, and they're connected. Or, yeah, you can go to whoever's handling the corporate or the sponsorships. My guess is they're all going to know that the top people that are involved, and there's going to be somebody that's going to say, yes, somebody over at Nike, this person happens to also work for Special Olympics. You should go talk with that person. And so a lot of times that's where you can really start getting, connected. You probably already have your connections with the initial groups, but somebody like that on that level is going to be able to help you kind of like, take it to the next level and really have a sit down with them and be able to say, okay, well, we need to get, Joe involved from the regional level, and Joe's is connected with all the clubs within, Girl Scouts, and really get this going. And then that's how we really can take it to the next level. But I really believe in sitting down and talking with the people that are right in your network, and then going from there.
I agree with that. 90% of our season ticket holders are alumni, so we have a relatively small alumni base, but they're extremely passionate. They're the ones that buy the product most of the time. So we worked through our alumni office. Before I got there, we had our corporate sales program was food. It was nothing, which was crazy because we're literally right down the street from New York City. Like, I don't know what else you're asking for. So we worked through our alumni association to find, and all of our separate schools, for example, our business school, to find out who their big benefactors were. If they worked in the city, how can we get a hold of them? So that's how we basically developed our corporate sales program, to find out who the decision makers were that were participating in the school, either through the networking events or the alumni chapters. And that's basically how we started a corporate sales program, because if they weren't the decision maker, it made it easier to have that conversation. I mean, we weren't just a sales rep cold calling them. That person is already familiar with the product. They already give back in a bunch of different ways. And people love showing off their alma mater. They love talking about their alma mater. They're proud of it. And so for us, that's how we started our corporate sales program.
Yeah, I'm piggybacking on that. When I was at Florida State, we had one group that basically, I put out an idea through our alumni network. We had a couple alumni that really wanted to get behind it, and it was supporting the Boys and Girls Club. So we had actual alumni, fans, going out to other fans and alumni, suggesting that people donate money to this cause to get Boys and Girls Club kids to a game. That program is now 10 years in the making, and I'm no longer at Florida State, but that program is. So that's one way. Also, a lot of colleges don't necessarily go the traditional group sales route. So I think doing research on what pro sports teams are doing and just taking that same model. I mean, there's a lot of times, if you're not doing it already, there's so much saturated just business sitting there waiting to be called on. The FCA groups of the world, the Boy Scout, Girl Scout nights, the theme nights, all of those things are just, it doesn't always have to be alumni, but if you can double team it and get alumni behind an idea as well, you will absolutely do big things with groups, because alumni follow alumni, right? But I think a lot of those groups are untouched in the college market, so looking at any of those kind of theme night ideas to build those can help as well.
Gary, coming from a sports background now, looking at trying to create a supersized group, how does your staff go about it? How do they brainstorm? What do they do to figure out how can we get a large group out there?
Yeah.
How do they determine who?
Yeah, a lot of the things we'll determine how we do everything based on if we have a big Boy Scout night or Girl Scout night, Kids Day. So we supersize those days. When they come out, we identify specific days that we want to with everything that's around. As far as businesses, we identify about a top 30 business that we're trying to work with. So the Boeings, the Amazons that are out here. We have a top 30 that we want to get in there. They're all structured by different departments, so to make that bigger, we're not just focusing on one department, we focus on the whole thing, bringing out multiple departments. And that's how we do it, at least at the Aqua Sox, that's what we're doing. We have the top 30 that we're going after, and some of that includes some of our sponsors that we have as well. So yes, they're doing the sponsorship side, but we're seeing how we can get groups and season tickets out of them as well to help us out a little bit.
Anybody else?
Question was, how do we supersize them?
How do you decide who? I mean, how do you create a supersized group? Where do you pull from to start it off?
Well, I think for starters, just asking the people that are involved. It was interesting, I still remember an event that you and I did when we were there in terms of a military night, but only, so when we brought in some women that were involved with the military that were season ticket holders for the store, they wanted to kind of create an event, so we had to sit down with them. And so we started asking them questions in terms of, who else can get involved and what other departments, and so they just started firing off names and, oh, you need to get this person involved, and this person's connected over here, and da-da-da-da-da-da. And very quickly, we had a list of probably, 20 to 30 additional people that were extremely well connected within the military, and all you need to have so it was Governor, I can't remember who was at the time, but the first, her husband needed to be there, and all these different ideas just flowed from this one initial meeting that we had a ton of things from which to go off of. And so that's what really opened my eyes to it, and just by asking them what was important to them and who within their ranks that we needed to go out to, the event grew very quickly.
So we're looking at the meeting, and before I get to the meeting, it's like, who do we pull from? How do I come up with a supersized group? So for instance, when I was in LA, if you have a story, if you have an affinity, that is a great way to start. When I was in LA, I have a developmentally challenged brother. Doesn't get invited to a lot of places, right? People get uncomfortable sometimes. So when I was in LA, went out and I said, let's brainstorm ideas. So the staff was brainstorming large group ideas. And when you brainstorm, the idea is to continually ask yourself, who else? Who else could be connected? Who else could be invited? Who else? That's what's going to create a supersize. So if you're asking that question, you look at developmentally challenged, who else? You have group homes, you have schools, right? You have organizations, you have ARC, every state has a couple ARC organizations, which is your developmentally challenged. Now we have multiple areas we can go to and reach out to. So we created a rally for respect night, ended up with over 1,000 people. Same thing, churches, a lot of people say, oh, you can supersize the church. Well, rightfully or wrongly, I don't know if anybody's been selling groups tickets to churches lately, it's a nightmare. They're unchurchy. They don't like to come together. Faith and family nights are kind of going down the tubes. They don't like to come together. So how do you create this church night that works? So when I was out in LA, I met with I had the team, they wanted a big church night. And I'm like, it's not going to work, they're not going to come together, let's figure it out. So we met with the Director of Communications for the Methodist Church. What gets your people excited? And he said, choirs. So you need to have an off-the-wall idea to go with it. I get excited, and so I said, oh my God, I've always wanted to do American Idol. We should do an American Idol before the game. And the third place can do the God Bless America, second place can do the anthem, and first place can do halftime. So what started out as we might get 200 people ended up with over 2,000, and they had choirs from Mexico coming up. So what ideas can your staff brainstorm for supersizing by asking who else can be added on? Now, do you notice a lot that theme nights and supersized nights are different? And you have a hard time differentiating sometimes? What is the purpose really of a theme night? A lot of us have theme nights, right? What is the purpose really of a theme night?
Gives people an excuse to come see it.
Exactly, it's
Feel
the
somewhat
walk-up.
of an affiliation with it.
Yep, it's the walk-up. So if you have a theme night of, say you have a theme night of beach night, I mean, as a group person, it's kind of hard to sell to whales and dolphins, right? I mean, you might sell to lifeguards, that kind of doesn't do it. So that's for the walk-up. So supersizing is more brainstorming the who else. And a lot of times, if you look at your existing groups, you're underestimating the numbers that they can be bringing in, wouldn't you say? How could they redevelop that?
And the big thing too, I say this all the time, is a theme night or anything is only usually as good as the money you're putting behind it. And so I worked at places where our marketing team has all these great theme night ideas, and then nobody ever finds out about them because they don't really invest any money behind it, and they get mad at us because the theme night doesn't sell. That's something that's important to realize too, is that if you're going to do an initiative, make sure you're putting, if you can, put some sort of dollars behind it, because that's where your ROI is going to fail. You can't expect your sales team to simply go out and display, especially for a theme night with anything. Group night's a different thing, but for theme nights especially, put some dollars behind a marketing effort to make sure that's going to promote it.
I've always looked at it as a theme night as a feel-good night, as an additional way of bringing people in. With groups, I mean, you can have a group on any night. You don't really have to have a theme night in order to have groups there. I mean, it's great if there's a connection between the two. It adds that much more to it. But groups, I mean, you can have, military out, you can have anybody out for a particular night and build that up around experiences, around, finding common reasons for, churches and so forth to come out. You can create those on any night. You don't have to have a theme night or something to support it.
Yeah, and going back to identifying, how do you find those supersized groups? Where do you start, right? So if you have any kind of group sales data, any historical purchases, start there. Anybody that's buying groups, those are the people that are already invested in your program. Find out what they do. Find out who they are. I'll brag for 1 minute. My first group sale ever turned into a 1,000-person group. And it started from a 10-person group the prior year. By getting to know the person, I found out he was a young, single person trying to become a minister. He was very highly involved in Christian singles. He was involved in different Christian singles groups around Atlanta, all over the place. And he was motivated by congregating as many people as he could so he could get his message out. Just like that, we had a 1,000-person group. It was a little more work that went into it, but just finding out who your people are that you're already working with, that are already spending money with your organization, and finding out what they do and what motivates them.
Yeah, I'm not saying people don't reach out to their current season ticket holder base to find out if they're involved in any groups. Doesn't mean all of our sales reps do at least once a year when they call, they do their usual reaching out to somebody, make sure you're having a good time. Are you involved in any organizations? You want to bring out the game? Like, I'm amazed at how many of our leads come out of that. I'm amazed at how often that does not come up in the conversation.
Because a lot of times they're taking it as an opportunity, right?
No, don't think of it that way. It's more than just, you like your seats, you have a good time, like, get something else out of that call.
Something that we do at the Aqua Sox as well, we do a fan survey at the end of the game to get specifically a lot of that data and find out what they like, what they didn't like, but also find out what they're also involved with. Just for that touch point, that talking point when we talk to them next, for some group ideas, even for our FSCs that we have and everything. End of the year, and that's sent out to everybody from our season ticket holders groups to the fan that attended one game. Just get that information out and figure out what we can do to increase what we're doing.
I think what we need to do once we start a supersized group is, and once we start these ideas, is we need to have a meeting. And just say, in-person meetings are huge. It's really hard to sell stuff over the phone. There's no passion, there's no energy. I mean, I like phones, you gotta make a meeting, but it's very hard to say no to somebody when you're in person. And so if you have a supersized group meeting, to me, it's extremely important to invite as many people as you can from as many different facets that can feed into this group, because that's how you get your ideas going. How do you guys feel about that, and how do you host a supersized meeting?
Yeah, as far as something that we do with some of the supersized groups that we look at, all those meetings always take place at the ballpark. This way we can go out there, we can show them exactly where everything's going to be, where the layout is, what their expectations are. They can see the advantage points from bringing in, if they have face painters, or if they bring in more inflatables, or whatever it may be. We always meet at the ballpark. In these meetings, we always have our community relations director. We want to have them know what's going on as well out in the community, so they can promote it. Myself will be there on the sales side. Just anybody that's going to be involved, their stadium operations director, whatever it may be. So we have tons of people that are out there within the Aqua Sox, so we can communicate between departments and give them exactly what they're looking at and exceed expectations. So every meeting that we have for these groups, they all take place at our ballpark.
And a good point to tag on to that, there's another reason why. If you host a supersized meeting and you have 10 different people from 10 different facets of an organization, 10 different organizations, and you want them all to bring 100 people so you get to 1,000, if you host it at any one of their locations, it automatically tells them, everyone else, that this one is more important, and it shuts the rest of the people down. So your location is the neutral location. It's always the best place to host a supersized meeting.
It's also the coolest location.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I always think
It's the coolest spot.
Exactly.
bring them to your office. I mean, if they're passionate, if they're season ticket holders, whatever, right? They're going to want to come back. They're going to see the trophies on the wall or banners hanging up there, right? And they're going to have that passion come right back up again. And not only that, but if you possibly can, have somebody pop in the meeting, have your GM pop in, have, maybe one of the players pop in and just say, hi, heard you guys were making a big plan for the meeting, love to have you guys out, thanks for coming by, and they're gone. They're gonna be that much more enthusiastic about it and wanting to make it happen. So just those small little tidbits that you can do by having it at your place, just continues to ignite that flame of passion.
I agree. Supersized groups don't happen without group leaders. If you don't get your group leaders excited, it's never going to happen. You can have one group leader that has one segment, but if you're trying to get all the segments, I agree completely with Kathy. It's getting them all there so you get them all excited and all of them going out at once.
No, I've had success when I was selling hockey tickets. The games, the soccer games, I would go get extra tickets and invite my group leader actually to a game. Or if you have an extra season, bring them in, give them some food or whatnot, and that way they're experienced, like you said, right? It's the best way to have them. You got well, people just talking to each other. Sounds great.
Plus you get to paint the vision, like you said. I mean, it's just having them there, you get to draw what the actual experience is for them, let them envision it instead of just trying to describe it by phone.
We like to do a lot of things online now. That seems to be a big thing, We sell it, but you can buy it online. So we'll send out a link. To me, that I cringe when we jump to that right away. It's the kiss of death. And people that sell links are probably ready to shoot me. But the links are okay, but they're only as good as the person in the office that is there supporting it and creating it. So what are your thoughts on using links? How do you use them differently? How do you make sure that people are buying and not just going, did my job, I sent the link out, we're gonna get 1,000 people and 5 people show up.
When we sell a group package, we make sure that the group leader has all of the resources they need. Like, do you need us to make you a flyer? Like, do you need us to, what do you want? So we work with a company called Fibo, and we can personalize the page for them. We find out, you want your logo on the page? Are there pictures from last year's event you want on the page? So it literally looks like it's their page, it's their event, and they tend to take more ownership of that when they feel like they have more control over the content of the layout of how things are gonna look. And for me, the link is only effective if, I want 3-4 levels of sales guy. Like, I wanna see, to me, the decision maker, the most important person in the organization is the one that got it to their friend, and then their person sent it to their friend. Like, the person who's 5 levels deep in the sale, that's what I want to know. Because that's my next group leader. That's the next guy I can get related. I can get to do a group event. So we work with FIBA, and that's been big for us. It's things that they take ownership over the page, take ownership over the event, and it's a shareable, trackable. It makes it easy for them to share and post on social. And for us, that's huge. To me, though, we stopped using the general link thing a long time ago because it just doesn't move tickets. And like I said, the group leader tends to say, well, I sent your link out. There's nothing about it that's personal. It doesn't have my logo on it. It doesn't have, and there's a competition element to it, right? Like that's something we definitely don't take advantage of enough. And with FIBA, you can see there's a leaderboard. Who's selling the most tickets in your group? Like, and then we reward that person usually with an additional fan experience element. We get them in the high five line, give them a tour before the game. There's this competition element amongst people that we tend to not utilize. We like to create the competitive element in the organization so that we can get more tickets sold and also reward the person who's putting in the work and selling those tickets.
I mean, if you absolutely have to, you don't want to not bring in the customers. So you absolutely have to let the link, well, that's what you need to use. That's typically the last thing I will go to in terms of trying to sell this or create something for it. But when it comes to groups, especially if you're creating package experiences, I'm going to tell this person, okay, well, typically we would ask 200 tickets or 300 tickets for the experiences that you're asking for. So let's get those tickets purchased up front so that'll lock in your experience. And then if you guys want to use a link after that, well, then that's something we could talk about. But at least I'm getting locked in, 200, 300, 400 tickets up front. And then you're going from there. So I know that my event is going to already have some momentum base behind it, so that when we send out the link, join your other, 400, 500 alumni coming out to this event or whatever event you've been built up.
And to me, the link is only effective if you plan on using that information later. Like for us, we found that the links we do use, 75% of those customers are brand new customers who aren't having links. They've never come to an event before, at least not that we've known of. So if you're doing any sort of link or social media push around like that, find ways to use that data. That's a new customer, it's a new prospective customer.
They're gonna buy.
We do product, and like I said in another session, we roll out the carpet for those new buyers too. We make sure that we send them every available offer that we have. We make sure that they're aware of our upcoming games. So to me, if you supersize a group, it's a great opportunity to get a whole new pool in. Whether you do it the old way or if you do it through the classic sales push or the new way with the link, you still have to find a way to get that customer data. I think that's really important.
Yeah, links are scary. They're hit or miss. I mean, if you go your traditional AAAs, the Amazons of the world, some of those links are just naturally going to work because of the amount of people that you're reaching from them. But this year for one of the events that I represent is Upstream Music Fest. It's a 3-day music festival, and we did something with Amazon, but we also had to do a series of concerts on the Amazon campus where we were promoting the link, promoting the discount that was available to them. So we put a lot of resources behind promoting the link, and that was successful for us. But then you have other links where we're going out to sell people, and if you fall back too quickly on just sending out a link, we'll sell 1, 2, 3 tickets.
That is really key. I am a huge fan of, you need a start and stop date. And it's not that you won't sell right up until your event, but you need to have a campaign. And so if you don't have a strong campaign going out, what happens in your personal email? Do you get a notice that something's coming up and you read it the first time, they send it to you a week later, and do you open it again? No, you say, oh, I read that, delete. Oh, I read that, delete. There's nothing new. So after that first impulse, there's no reason for you to open it. So I know I like to work, when I'm supersizing, I like to work with groups. I like to find out who, I'm very left of center, so I like to find out who some of their people are that are in their departments that get the messaging out, communications departments. And I ask them if I can work with them. I have done strange things from, we once had a group that the guy thought it was an insurance company. He thought he was easily going to get a couple thousand people because he had 5,000 people working there. His assistant was going, the president's assistant was going to sing the anthem. Her name was Jane, and he said, we'll just send this out and everybody's going to buy. Well, 35 tickets later, he's like, this is embarrassing, what do we do? Like, okay, let's start date and a stop date in the next 3 weeks and make a big push in a hurry. So for 3 weeks, we did a See Jane campaign. Perfect name, had a lot of fun. See Jane, and I would superimpose her picture. See Jane, and we had her holding up clothes. See Jane as she shops at Kmart to pick out her attire to sing the anthem. Then we had her superimposed next to Mick Jagger. See Jane as she practices her moves with Mick Jagger getting ready to sing the anthem. So we sent something out every couple days, and every time we did that, it was different and it was a push. Also, video is opened, I think I just read, 67% more than email. So I'm a huge fan right now. A 30-second video going out. So if you get your people from your supersize group, your leaders, and you get them to the park or you get them to your event, and you have them just video them on your phone even for 30 seconds saying, hey, we got this coming, we're really excited, look where we are, blah, blah, blah. You send that out. That's another big push. And you're going to find that people are going to open it and buy. And another thing too is y'all sold candy bars, right? Back in grade school, those dreaded candy bars. And you pushed your parents to sell them because you wanted that little fake tattoo that they were giving you when you sold them. So what are we doing to incentivize the people that are going out to sell? Are we giving them the first 150 that come in are in a drawing for? The first 300 that come in, you're going to be in a drawing for. And what are we doing to incentivize and get them excited? So those are some of the things I tend to look at when I'm trying to supersize and come up with ideas. It's a thankless job, right? And we're asking somebody to help us do our job. So it kind of is hard. What about nonprofits when we get to trying to supersize nonprofits?
We've had our best luck when there's a donation component attached to it. It was nice with the group ticket software we use. They allow us to add a donation to the ticket price. As a nonprofit, it is really tough to get our university to cut another nonprofit a check. They don't like to do it. So that company will cut the check for us, and we have washed our hands of it. And we find that when we add the fundraising component and we sort of push like, hey, $5 of every ticket sold goes to this, that's when we tend to have our most success because the response tends to be more viral. I'm buying the ticket, but I'm also helping contribute to this cause. Then we do the check presentation at the game, and we have some people that's obviously helping. And the group drives most of that stuff. We don't obviously do a lot of that, but we find that and there's an intrinsic component attached to it with you're helping to do this, that, or you know, $5 this goes to this, here are the kids that's helped, and we put those videos in the group slot. Last year, you helped send so we do a Boys and Girls Club thing, you know, you helped send these kids to camp, and they did a thank you thing. That tends to move the needle a little bit more than just, you know, here's the Boys and Girls Club buy tickets. And for a lot of these nonprofits, they're not the ones buying the tickets, they're trying to get their donors to buy the tickets. You know, so that's the other thing we do is we try to find out who their benefactors are, so they can help contribute to bring in some of the actual things out of the event.
What about an entertainment and sports? You're trying to work with the Diabetes Association or, you know, some of the nonprofits out there, Cancer Society. What do you find?
I love finding the low-hanging fruit. So finding fundraisers that already exist, and what are they doing to fundraise in your area? Is there an entertainment portion of that fundraiser that can tie in with what you guys do? Dance Marathon at Florida State is a huge fundraising organization for Children's Miracle Network. And they do a huge fundraiser every year. They do a 24-hour dance-a-thon that they raise money for. It's mostly out of the Greek life, so fraternity sororities going out and raising money from their parents in their neighborhoods. But then we tie it in with Parents Weekend, and then we tie it in with the game, and then we tie in a portion of the tickets for their parents for a game they're already coming to back to their fundraising efforts. So you just kind of tie in things that already exist and figure out ways that you can embed yourself in that process and maximize on that. You know, a lot of times it's not about recreating brand new things that nobody's ever thought of. It's finding things that are already there and how can you grow them and how can you motivate those group leaders through those practices.
How do you find it?
Yeah, a lot of it's kind of the same. Some of the biggest things that we found this year to be very successful was the Lewinsky Hope Foundation. What they were doing with that, we changed up some of our flags to his number 3. Had his family and everything down there, but we tied that in with our crew net. Portions of our tickets went back to the Lewinsky Hope. We had different promo codes that we used as well for a specialized shirt. So it was a lot of different things that we could tie into one to really kind of supersize it and really get back. And it's more than just the foundation that and the people that they're touching, but it was everybody that was out of the ballpark. We do a lot of different things with our Aqua Sox 5K, with the Helping Hand Project, with them volunteering and coming out. Part of the race proceeds will go back to them. So and we tie it into a baseball game and everything at the end of the night. So kind of piggybacking off of that as well, we try and find something that we can tie in, a baseball game, giving back, and really getting that organization their message out to our fans and having them participate as well.
A lot of times you'll find, has anybody ever worked in nonprofits? It can be a very thankless job, right? You either hit the goals or you're out. I mean, there's no buffer zone. It's a hard job. And so when we get excited and we call them and we tell them, hey, $5 every ticket goes back to you, what do you think they're hearing? Automatically they're hearing, oh my God, they want me to work, they want me to do their job, and I got enough going on, I got a golf outing, I got a gala coming up, I got this, I got that. That's one more thing on my plate. Fine, I'll send it out. If it works, fine. If it don't, that's fine too. So you have to figure out how can I engage them and get them as passionate and as excited as I am about it. And you always have to set a goal. I mean, what is your goal? Our goal is to get 1,000 people out. They need to know what that goal is, because to them, 10 tickets may sound wonderful, and to us, it's like all that work for that. So don't be afraid to tell them what your expectations are. That sets the tone. The other thing with nonprofits I've found too is that we don't maximize what we have to offer. So do you have suites that are available? Do you have prime locations that are available that you know are not going to sell out the whole season? What you do is you give them a month, a start date and a stop date, and we'd like you, with a minimum bid, would you blast this out to all your people? With a minimum bid of, maybe your suite costs, I don't know, $1,500. With a minimum bid of $2,000, you can have a suite at such and such facility, and part of the proceeds are coming back to us. They blast it out. They have the database, and they have a lot of high-end contacts. They have 30 days to do that. You can turn around and tell them also, you can sell on the spot, buy now for $4,000. You're gonna get paid, you will get, it's a no one loses. You get your money because it's a minimum bid, right? It's just like the necklaces they give out in all the galas, these jewelers just don't give them out for free. It's a minimum bid, but meanwhile, your opportunity to get more than just the tickets, and their relationship with you suddenly becomes more solidified because you're offering them something far greater than just the tickets. Now you're offering them a whole package that's pretty cool. So that's just another thought, something I use up. What are some of the challenges you guys come up with when you're working with large groups?
Well, communication aspect of it. And not only that, but a lot of times you become the one person that everybody goes through. So you're getting bombarded with emails or phone calls all the time about it. And it's fantastic if you have people engaged about it, but you need to delegate in terms of being able to have other people that are involved in the groups to be able to take on some of that, to be able to help you, help them in terms of where you want to go. But that's huge. And then also, are there any costs that are involved? Maintaining the experiences, all those type of things. I mean, sometimes they get very passionate about their groups and they want to, oh, we could get this and we can get that. If we get on the floor, could we get this and that? Like, you don't want to dismiss what they're saying. You don't want to minimize their passion and for what's going on, but you also have to temper it a little bit as well.
I think the biggest struggle that we have is that the New York City market, everybody's got options. Like we're not the only option. I said in another session that you're like business will make a SWOT analysis thing. Well, the threat for us is just New York City. You just write that in the box, circle it 15 times, and that's it. And so that's the challenge for us is how do we find our space in this really crowded marketplace? Because they don't come to me. There's 15 million things in New York City they can do for groups. I'm not the only show in town. And so for us, it's about creating the experience that works best for them the best way we can, while at the same time trying to position ourselves in a way that we are the best, most affordable option for them. But for us, it's definitely the marketplace that is our biggest challenge.
I would say across the board, everywhere I've been is living in our own bubble and expecting everyone else that picks up the phone to be in that same mindset as us when we call them. That's been my biggest challenge with reps, with myself, at any given time. It's just, you have to take a step back and realize the person that you're calling, you have to start from scratch every time before they understand why you're calling or what a group ticket is. They might not even know what a group is. They don't understand that concept yet. You have to take that step back and be educational on every phone call, on every meeting. I think that's a big challenge I've seen.
Yeah, kind of the same. Seattle, the competition that we have, that's our biggest challenge as well. There's a lot to do out here. We play at the same time that the Mariners play. I've heard that countless times here. But yeah, that's really more. What's that?
But you guys win more.
I mean, yeah. Yeah, you don't have to deal with as much traffic. But yeah, that's really the biggest thing is just our location with everything else that there is out to do here. And then we love our parent club, but yes, they are a little bit of competition for us as well.
I notice a lot of times when we have a supersizing meeting, it should be like the dating game. In the dating game, when you're out, in that crowded bar, which you never go to, but you're out in that crowded bar and you gaze across the room and that significant other is just sitting there, and so you take a tasty beverage and you go over and you start talking, and how many of you are still single? Okay. I'll help with your dating life then. But what happens generally is what comes out of our mouth, we just start talking a lot about us. And in the dating world, it's all about who? Them. So it's the same thing with a supersized meeting. This meeting should be all about them. And the one thing I notice that's a huge mistake that we tend to do is as we're getting them excited, I love to give them an off-the-wall idea to start to show we're creative, and then let them start to come up with ideas. What would get your people excited? What would get them out here? But what a big mistake we make is we start telling them, no, well,
we can't do that. Well, we can't do that. The minute you say you can't do that, you have shut them down. And so to me, that's one of the biggest mistakes I see reps make. We need to keep an open mind on that first meeting and just take notes. And then reset the second meeting, and that's where you clarify what you can and can't do. And that way, at least the interest is there, you're getting ideas from them. The whole thing is to get them engaged, I would think. I have found the supersized groups on my own, that if I can get them, to feel ownership of it, and it's their idea, it's gonna fly. It's gonna fly really well. It's all about their idea. If it's my idea and I'm trying to make them do it, it's not their idea. Yeah, we'll sell it, but if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So it's all about them, and that is really a huge key. WABA is a challenge to sell, and I worked with them for a number of years consulting. But we got some major groups out of them, a couple thousand, 3,000, but it was all because of their ideas. And then let's figure it out, scale back what we can't do. But now we created this platform for you, and you have a cool stage for it, and what we expect is 2,000 people to show up. So how are we gonna do it? Let's roll out the strategy now.
And also, in addition to making it their idea, also one thing that I learned was to ask them, like, is there anybody that we currently work with that you guys have been trained to get in with? And can we introduce you to this organization? Can we get them involved with you guys? And that really means an awful lot for them, because they currently, then they really see that we are trying to help them grow as an organization and make their event successful. And that goes a long ways.
So when should a supersized process start when you're trying to think big? If your season starts in April, when should this process start?
March. No, season starts in April?
Yeah.
Sorry. The year prior.
Yeah. If you're looking to get to large numbers, it is a process and a strategy. It sure doesn't fall out of a turnip truck. You really have to have a plan. So how do you guys go about it? You can start it with.
Group leader town halls are huge. Group leader town halls at the last game of the year, a couple games leading up to the end of the season. Let them taste it, get them a thank you for doing the group that they did the prior year. Let them get together, let them brainstorm and bounce ideas off each other and hear what they're doing, not from me, but from each other. Let's be successful.
Okay, anybody else?
The problem we have is we don't get our conference schedule until the first week of September, which is hard because the season starts the first week of November for us. So we basically get an idea of tentative dates for that group, not tentative dates, of times of year that tend to work best for them. That way, when the schedule comes out, their reps hit the phones and they call up and they start securing the dates, and that way the work's already been done. A lot of times we get the flyers ready to go. We're just like waiting this, put the date in. A lot of sports get different calendars a year in advance, and that's where we still have that flexibility. So we just try to do as much on the front end, so when the schedule does come out, we can just hop in and really start plugging the puzzle pieces and getting it done.
Yeah, we take that, the top 30 that I was talking about earlier. That's a big thing. Right when our schedule comes out, hopefully it gets approved tomorrow. But every date that we have, that's right when the schedule comes out, the top 30 surveys that we do as well, we'll reach out to them to really start building it up and get these big groups up.
If you have an event going on, or you have a sports team, and the schedule, I've had a lot of reps tell me, well, we can't supersize, we don't have a schedule. And I'm like, that means nothing. You know you're going to be playing certain months, right? So all you really need in planning is what month works best and what day of the week works best. Weekday or weekend, day or evening, and just cut it to that. As soon as the schedule comes out, then you plug them in. But all the groundwork, like you were saying, all that groundwork is laid, and that's what you need. If you get all that groundwork laid early, and you have your campaign started on a certain month, you're ready to hit the ground running, and you're going to be successful. But it's all about the strategy and the planning that go into it.
Not to mention, it's hard for them to back out if they don't get the exact date in
Yeah.
the month that they want, once they're already that vested in it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at this one.
I'm pretty interested in you. You come from a sports background, but you're really hosting events now, and that's a little different. It's a different kind of world. So when you're looking at that, how do you find people? I mean, how do you really go after it? Because that's, you're
Still
trying to
figuring
find
it out.
somebody that likes a certain niche.
Yeah.
So that interests me.
We're still figuring it out, and, you know, we're really trying to take the sports model into the entertainment world, which is kind of, you know, some people are cheering for us, some people are saying it's never gonna work. This year, it's a second-year festival, so number one, the festival is not known. We have a four-day art fair, a high-end, like your Art Basels of the world. A group ticket to that, everyone's like, that's so unartsy, right? So we're just trying to go against the grain a little bit and educate people. A lot of people don't know about these events because you go to HR managers, office managers, the event coordinators, and businesses, and so it's just education is a lot of it. But once you find that person, you just have to cradle them. Find out everything you can from them. Our most successful one was at Upstream Music Fest this year. We had an 850-person group from Amazon that paid in tickets for full, one group leader, one check up front. But what we did with that was found out what was important to them. You know, they run the intern program. Okay, well, what do you do with the intern program? What's important for them to get out of their internship? What are you striving to do? So we ended up creating something that we never even had on a rate card. It wasn't an experience that we had planned to sell at any given time, but being flexible on that is going to help you when you're in more of a non-traditional group sales environment. So we ended up creating a pavilion for them right by the main stage. It was catered. They had their tickets. They had their own entrance. They had, you know, we rolled out the red carpet for them. Ended up being a $50,000 sale. But that was our most successful one, and there's a lot of unsuccessful ones so far. So
But you got a model to work with.
yeah, definitely something to build on.
Was there any follow-up after the event with them? Have you tried to maintain that cohort?
Oh, 100%. I mean, we had the tent branded for them, so after the event, we came in with a gift basket with all their signage so that they could take a picture with the interns. And we also have a movie theater called Cinerama, if you guys live here in Seattle. Chocolate popcorn is our thing. So we take them chocolate popcorn once every couple of months so they can give out to the interns, and they have chocolate popcorn days in the office. So just little touch points throughout to maintain that relationship is vital to it. Because that can make or break our numbers for next year, right? So.
And just like with season tickets, you know, if you have season tickets, you're always trying to touch that hopefully, you're trying to touch that person so that they renew. And we all know that it takes 6 in-person touch points a year, plus the 6 out of not in-person touch points. It takes 12 a year in order to get to a 95% renewal rate. But 6 in-person means 3 in-season, 3 out-of-season. So what do you do? And you know, there's a lot of different ways of touching people. That's a great way. You're doing something in the off-season. There's videos you can send. There's just different ways to touch people, and these groups are no different. Our biggest failure in sports comes from lack of follow-up, quite frankly. Our biggest failure in selling large groups is lack of follow-up. And it's working with them every step of the way, but then the follow-up afterwards. So every month after, just because they came out, you should stay connected in some way. Because that keeps the energy going. And when we don't do that, and to your point, you want, that's a great group, and you're not going to lose it. You almost built them into it. You don't want to. Before I left the Indians, I had 6,000 accounts, so there was no way I knew them all. But I took my better accounts and I called them, and then one woman did 5,000 tickets with me every year for the Cleveland Clinic. And I called her to tell her, I said, Nancy, I'm going to be leaving. And she said, oh, thank God. And I'm like, you liked me. And she said, well, I do. She said, you just keep in touch with me all year, and you're so excited, and I just can't say no to you. And she said, finally, I can say no to somebody. And I back me in, I put my best guy on you. But that's the kind of relationship you want, really, right? Is that they feel that you're working with them, and the numbers will grow. They will definitely grow if you're working with them. Does anybody have any questions? We've got about 5 more minutes. Time flies when you're having fun. Yes?
I've got a question. So, this has been all about selling tickets. The problem I have is that we sold out both seasons, and so what I'm trying to do, yeah. So what I'm trying to do is create a cohesive cohort of fans, and trying to find ways to reach out to them. I'm head of the fan club for the Seattle Seawolves from BT, and so there's all these people who sort of individually happened across the Seawolves and bought tickets. You know, maybe they knew somebody, maybe they just saw an ad, whatever. And now trying to bring them together into a coherent, cohesive group, and trying to reach out to them in the off-season when there's nothing going wrong, frankly. And trying to create this cohort that can then do stuff like travel to other cities together to help sell tickets at those events and things like that. Where do you leverage the fan club? What do you want the fan club to do to help you? I guess that's what my question is.
College world. That's right.
I mean, I guess, we I think which was the soccer person, they would be really good at that. Like I said, the problem we have is, like I said, 9% of our alums are, 9% of our alums that are over the age of 55, so can't even to engage with anything that's basically you know, we just worked really hard the last couple of years. I guess the closest thing we compare to is our student section, our student group. We just made sure that we identified people within our student section that were respected within the student section and were pretty loyal and people knew them. We just sort of created a hierarchy within that system and tried to identify who was the thought leaders in that section and rewarded them and made them the focal point and almost let them sort of run with it.
What was that discovery process? How did you figure out who they were? Was it just personal contacts that are like in that section?
Basically, so what's funny is Louis, we first off like just started watching the students.
And there's a guy with the rainbow.
When I was at
you know.
Liberty, that's what we did. We looked at students, and those guys are like, we had like 8 different student sections, like fan groups. That guy's crazy, we want that guy. And then we just developed this sort of hierarchy within that group. Mainly to make sure they were all working together, nobody was like trying to knock anybody out or steal somebody else's seats. But we identified somebody who we thought could be the president of that group. And then every year, basically, we pick who that president was going to be. And I think it's basically the same thing. But that was really the thing, was identifying that. So mainly it was from I guess from a lot of sports, the visual thing is easy. But we also reached out to maybe like a third of our students. Like, hey, who do you come with? You know, is there a person to make sure you all get to the game? Usually there's that one guy in the dorm that was like the ringleader of the group. And we just try to find those people. I hope that helps, which I had an answer for you. But
When we had consecutive sellouts back in Cleveland, you know, I went from the old ballpark where it was dismal to consecutive sellouts and then back to not doing so good again. And during that time, everybody thinks it's wonderful. That was actually one of the worst times ever because you are sold out and everybody thinks you're lying and it's just a nightmare. And people want to be engaged, they want to be part of it, and they're frustrated because they can't. And so I also headed a volunteer sales group there, but we took it to another level, and then we did much the same by identifying people who were passionate, really wanted to be part of it, couldn't get in. And then we started locating, and it helped us in the long run because it actually brought sponsors aboard. So we had pub areas that games could be shown, or other games could be shown, or we would have a live feed kind of thing, so that it generated that excitement. And then we also worked with the team, although the players couldn't come out, we had representatives from the Indians come afterwards, and they give away prizes, they give away stuff, and it showed that we cared. Even though we were sold out, we still cared. And that created a lot of good energy, so that when we weren't sold out anymore, those were the people that were coming to us because we stayed loyal to them.
Seattle Sounders done a great job around that.
Yeah.
Say that
They,
big degrees was.
they peed around every single sports bar in Seattle. It's really hard to find a place that'll show a rugby game. Because it's like, oh, sorry, we're partnered with the Sounders. We're gonna show the Sounders.
There's got to be a way they all learn the chants too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Anybody else have a question? Isn't that good?
Or that boring.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Thank you so much, and thank you, panel.
Thank
If
you.
anybody has any questions, please up with us after. Okay?
You know,
It's getting good.
Seton Hall.